People of the world. Hello and welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language. I would be your host. My name is Kellen Kausman. This is episode 149. Twitter permanently banning Trump. If I were the owner of Parler, I would be thrilled. I would be absolutely thrilled. Facebook reportedly tells employees not to wear logo in public. These are strange times. Strange times indeed. They are afraid of what's going to happen to the employees by wearing the logo. It is now associated in a certain way by folks who are anti-Facebook. We'll talk about that. YouTube bans Trump's account as well. So not just Twitter, not just Facebook, YouTube as well. 15 job growth areas according to LinkedIn. What do you wish you had studied 10 years ago? Google blocks all political ads for a week. This one is going to be an interesting show, ladies and gentlemen. If you have the patience to wait through the intro, you can watch it. Cheers. If you're not drinking tea, I highly recommend you drink tea. Twitter permanently banning Trump. This from markets.businessinsider.com. Twitter's stock price tumbled as much as 12% on Monday, erasing $5 billion from its market capitalization. Okay, so we talked about Trump as the incarnation of capitalism in America. And he somewhat is. He is just this archetype of advertising and capitalism. And this crossover into politics, I feel, really delineates the difference between advertising, capitalism, and government. Government, you could argue, is the largest company. You could argue that they drive the most revenue if you want to see them that way. But they are obviously very different than a company. And so Twitter permanently banning Trump is almost treating him as a private citizen again. And so this is the big transition, is where he no longer has some of the shields of government at his disposal. Back to the article, the tumble followed the social media group's permanent suspension of President Donald Trump's account on Friday while president. So a precedent has been set. Sitting president no longer having access to Twitter. Quote, after close review of recent tweets from @RealDonaldTrump account and the context around them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence. So this, of course, is the free speech argument that everyone makes, which is you can say whatever you want, but you cannot yell fire in a crowded theater. So according to the folks over at Twitter, I should argue some of the folks, who knows what everyone believes there, but the decision makers at Twitter, that line has been crossed. Now, obviously, Twitter is not a government organization, so they don't have to play by those rules, but they did make this particular choice. Trump, who had, think about that, had 88 million followers, generated enormous publicity for the platform with his controversial and incendiary tweets over the past 6 months. So just purely fiscally speaking, what does this mean for Twitter? You could argue that it is a mistake, given the fact that many ad dollars are at stake. Does Jack Dorsey care at this point? Probably not personally. But for the employees of Twitter, I'm sure they have their thoughts on the matter. So just fiscally speaking, it doesn't appear to me to be a good move to draw a political line in the sand. But ethically, you've got to wonder what the conversations inside Twitter have turned into, which is to say that the fact of the matter is that it is unprecedented. Back to the article, Twitter stock fell as much as 12%. Well, there you go. That was my point exactly. On Monday, after the social media company permanently suspended Trump's account on Friday, the share price decline wiped $5 billion. And we're not even talking about ad revenue yet. Do you understand me? So just this is the nature of money. And I hope everyone understands this. And I definitely need to be reminded of this from time to time. It's an illusion. Spoiler alert. Money is an illusion. If $5 billion can disappear because President Trump is banned, then money's an illusion. Twitter's bosses suspended Trump's account, which had about 88 million followers, after the world leader's fanning of conspiracy theories and voter fraud and election theft spurred thousands of his supporters to lay siege to the Capitol last week. So Esther Sass, co-host, Sass Insurance, writes, "Buy Twitter" in chat. And is she right? Is she? Drink tea, it's good for you. After a close review of recent tweets, we get it. All right, so is it time to buy Twitter? That's a great question. It was time to buy Bitcoin about 10 months ago, I'll tell you that much. Facebook reportedly tells employees not to wear logo in public. Why the heck would they do that? Facebook is reportedly telling employees, according to CNET.com. All links to all articles are in the description. Facebook is reportedly telling employees not to sport the company logo in public after the social media site last week suspended Donald Trump's account and began taking tougher action against the phrase "Stop the Steal," which has been used by Trump and his supporters to push false claims of voter fraud. Quote, "In light of recent events and to err on the side of caution, global security and is encouraging everyone to avoid wearing or carrying Facebook branded items at this time." So we live in a time where the megaliths have become the NBC's and Fox News's, as far as I'm concerned. This is what's happening. So we have new media by name of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. And there is a natural evolution towards leaning in a political direction. It's almost as if the companies themselves are a sphere and they will eventually roll in one direction. I think it is very difficult to remain objective. I attempt this very feat on this show. I don't think there's enough objectivity. I think it requires a ton of research on both sides and being willing to understand both sides. But objective journalism seems to be dead. And here we've got these media companies, and they're not even journalism. Obviously, they're simply platforms. And you would think, well, a platform can handle objectivity. No, they cannot. It turns out they are unable to. And so we've got Facebook on the left, you could argue. You could also argue the opposite, but I think most folks would agree, and I feel as though these decisions have at least publicly sent the signal. And I think people on the right, and especially on the far right, look at the recent acts of social media and see them as sort of an MSNBC, NBC type ideas. So Facebook telling their employees, look, it's not safe to do it. So I think it's important for us to remember that crime is down nationally, historically. For many years, it's been going down. Now, obviously, the news would have us believe that the world is on fire, and in parts of it, of course, it is. But keep a positive outlook, everybody. It's going to be okay. YouTube bans Trump's account as well. CNN.com. YouTube is suspending President Donald Trump's channel for at least 1 week and potentially longer after his channel earned a strike under the platform's policy. So here's a question for you. Do you think that the bigwigs at Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube are talking with one another? Yeah, I do too. And so they're all coming to meetings. They are chatting with one another, I would argue. And they're going, okay, if you do it, I will. If you do this, I'll do that. It's possible that they're all independently making decisions, but it doesn't take a big stretch of the imagination to understand that they're almost like they're not a union together, but they're understanding what the others are doing. They're playing in a similar game. So YouTube suspending Trump's channel for at least a week is obviously different than what Twitter is doing, but there is definitely a trend here. back to the article, CNN.com, a recent video on Trump's channel had incited violence. YouTube told CNN Business that video has now been removed. YouTube declined to share details of the video that earned Trump the strike, but said that after the 1 week timeout, it will revisit the decision. YouTube also removed content from the White House's channel. Jeez. The company told CNN Business, but the channel itself has not been suspended or been given a strike, just a warning. Until now, YouTube had been the only remaining major social media platform not to have suspended Trump in some fashion. Facebook has suspended Trump's account, quote, indefinitely, while Twitter has banned Trump completely. Wow. 15 job growth areas according to LinkedIn. Let's lighten it up, shall we? Let's lighten it up and just look at areas where you can get paid. Where can you get paid? Number one, frontline e-commerce workers. This from CNBC.com. Hiring growth since 2019 is up 73%. Frontline e-commerce salary range 42 to 56K. Loan and mortgage expert. That's interesting to me. The housing market is on fire, driven by low interest rates. Healthcare supporting staff. Obviously, we're in a pandemic. That's up by 34% since the start of 2019. Business development and sales professionals. Everybody needs to grow in a pandemic, and they are willing to invest in that, which is why business development and sales professionals is up 45%. We've got workplace diversity experts. We're definitely moving into a more diverse America, clearly. Hiring growth since 2019 up 90%. So workplace diversity is a big, big deal. Median salary $72,000 to $97,000 according to LinkedIn. Digital marketing professionals. Oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. I know a little bit about that. Oh, we've got a call during the show. I'm not going to take that. Digital marketing professionals, hiring growth since 2019 up 33%, $48,000 to $96,000. Nurses, school nurse, certified nursing assistant, nursing manager, up 30%. So again, pandemic related. Education professionals up 20%, interestingly. Youth worker, teaching assistant, education consultant. I would argue that a lot of people are getting paid to help kids at home, right? There's just because you are doing remote work doesn't mean your 6-year-old can sit in front of the computer all day with no supervision. Digital content creators, podcasting, blogging, and YouTube up 49%. Huge growth. Everybody's live streaming, no question about it. Personal and career coaches up 51%. Wow. Everyone needs a coach nowadays because they're struggling spiritually, professionally, etc. That is pretty funny. I do not have a life coach, for the record. Specialized engineers, game developers, software engineer. Gaming is absolutely exploding. So no question about that. Great salaries there, $77,000 to $104,000. Mental health specialists. Does this come as a surprise to anyone? Mental health specialist during a pandemic, growing 24% year over year. User experience professional, so UI, product design consultants, user interface designer, interesting. Data scientists up 46% year over year, with an average median salary of $100,000 to $130,000. Wow. And to round out, artificial intelligence engineers up 32%. So they make $124,000 to $150,000. Wow, considerable. So if you are looking at retraining, you know what I mean? You have to understand that, yeah, it's up year over year, but I don't know. Are a lot of people getting into nursing now because of those are the only jobs? Or are a lot of people getting into these things because of the pandemic? We are living in a strange pandemic bubble, clearly. Google blocking all political ads for a week. This from Newsweek.com. Google, one of the most powerful companies in the United States, said Wednesday that it will block all political advertisements and any ads related to the attack on the U.S. Capitol starting January 14th, reported by Axios. So Google continuing to put its thumb on the scale in regards to our politics in the United States, and unsurprising, they will continue to do this in the future. So not much of a story here, blocking all political ads. So we're going to summarize here, but I did want to mention one thing, which is the organs of the body, which you are familiar with, obviously. The lungs, the heart, the mind. The heart does what it does, and we're grateful and happy that it does what it does. The lungs, we can control them if we want to, but they also have an autopilot function. And the mind is similar to the lungs in that we can choose to have certain thoughts, but we have to actively do it, or it will go on autopilot. And the brain is annoying at times. It can just hit us over the head, perhaps even literally, or shock us into behavior. It's the angel and the devil on our shoulders. It would have us believe certain things. It would have us focus on other things, and it's incredibly influential. I believe there is a separation between who we are and the brain. I think that these are two different things. I think consciousness and brain function are separate, but that's just my opinion. And we look at the heart beating and we say to ourselves, fantastic. I'm so glad you're beating. I want you to be happy and healthy. Good. Love you, heart. Great. Lungs, same thing. Happy that you're doing what you're doing. We're not angry at our heart. We're not angry at our lungs. But we get frustrated with our mind. Our mind is looking out for us in a way. It's constantly delivering outcomes, looking at the past. It's showing us images of what we could do, what we could be. It's reminding us of failures. It's doing a lot, and it just wants your attention. When your mind gets your attention, that's when it gets all excited. When you pay attention to the thoughts. And so it will continue to hit you up just like a social media platform does. So if you give attention to a negative thought, let's just use an example of YouTube. If you only search puppy videos, you'll get puppy videos all the time. And the mind is similar in that way. The thoughts that you choose to entertain and continue to entertain create an algorithm in the mind and a pathway that takes some doing to reroute. And the some doing requires using the active part of your mind, similar to the active part of your lungs, you could say. Focusing on breathing as opposed to just breathing. Mind is similar in this regard. So gratitude lists are very helpful. And the way that this relates to advertising is that your mind is just a sublimely good advertiser. It will get your attention. There's nothing you can do about it. And how annoying the mind is part and parcel of the system of your body and your own survival, which is to say, if you are a company and you are concerned about how annoying your business is, what you'll find is the most profitable and ubiquitous companies are the most annoying because they are the most prolific, which is to say Coke is everywhere. Coke is in your video games. You can see ads for Coke in movies, in television. Obviously, you're going to find them online. You're going to find them during commercial breaks. They are literally everywhere all of the time. And so they literally can associate with a color. Red for Coke, blue for Pepsi. And so if you want to make the hurdle or jump the hurdle in your mind of just how annoying you're willing to be as a company, remember the mind. Because the mind can be incredibly frustrating and still get what it wants. So if the mind wants you to go do a chore, it'll just hit you up constantly, over and over again. It'll make you feel bad for not doing it. It's like, do the chore, right? And you pay attention to it. It's like, yay, and it's happy. Just because you paid attention to it. So when it comes to advertising, it can feel as a person like, I don't want to bug people. I don't want to, I don't want it to be too much. But the reality is we've got the most impressive communication tool in existence, which is the brain, to you, communication highway, you could say. And the mind is just constantly hitting you up. And it doesn't care if it's annoying at all. It does not care. What it wants is your attention, period. And so it gets what it wants most of the time. Or it'll just keep hitting you over the head, keep sending thoughts out until it gets it. And this is just the nature of the body we find ourselves in. So if you want to be effective like the mind is effective, you may want to consider how you feel about how annoying you are, and being willing to be annoying like the mind is annoying, because it gets what it wants. And that's hard for a lot of people, because it feels counterproductive. It feels like, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to turn people off. But again, let's look at the biggest companies in the world: Tesla's, Coke, Pepsi, Apple. They are always, and look, they try not to be annoying. They try to frame the advertisements in a funny or interesting way. This, of course, is the goal. You want to minimize how annoying you are, but at the end of the day, it's touch, 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 until you get what you want. And that's just capitalism for you. You know, maybe there's let's see. Esther Hess said, a good intention is still good, even if it has a bad result. Well, that is an interesting quote. A good intention is still good, even if it has a bad result. Herman Hesse. Well, there's no better way to end the show than that, as far as I'm concerned. My co-host Esther Sass coming in with the inspiration. Marketing is a Foreign Language is live 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every single Monday through Friday, except for the ones when I'm not here. Apologies for that. You can shoot us an email, info, that's info@senditrising.com. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on Deezer, we're on a bunch of these different podcast platforms. Just search for Marketing as a Foreign Language, which is something you can do in YouTube to join us for the live show. You can also type in Send It Rising Internet Marketing, which happens to be the company that I am the owner of. I am an incredibly lucky guy. Comments and likes help with the algorithm for sure. So even if you say yo in the comments, it helps rank the videos and you're doing your part. So in summary, Twitter permanently bans Trump. Yep. Facebook reportedly tells employees not to wear logo in public. YouTube banning Trump account as well. A bunch of jobs that are growing significantly in this new economy, and Google blocking all political ads for a week. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I will see you next time. Tomorrow, actually, for our guest. We're going to have a special guest, so tune in. And that is the show. Farewell.